in one of his speeches, nobody gets 100%. All I'm suggesting is the minute the president says, I'll negotiate, the temperature is going to come down, they're going to be in a different environment, and we might get something done. I'm just
Well, that's not the way it happened last time. And let's talk about what happened 2 years ago. You were both in Congress. And I'm sure you remember it the way I remember it, that there was a negotiation between the president and Speaker Boehner. And just a couple of days before the deadline, when the country was going to default, Speaker Boehner walked away from those negotiations because he couldn't sell it to the far right wing of his caucus. As a result, for the first time ever, our credit rating was downgraded. It cost people $1 trillion in the stock market. So what is to say that Speaker Boehner can actually control this time? If we wanted to negotiate, who exactly would we negotiate with? Because it's clear that he can't bring those 45 Tea Party members with him.
Well, I can remember time and time again when Speaker Boehner would come back from the White House or conversations with the White House and say things like, the ball keeps moving, the goalposts keep moving, and no idea where the White House was, how they
Isn't that a negotiation?
They're not negotiating now, and so the president would say he wants more taxes than he had agreed to,
and
so
there was
now
an agreement on the table that he walked away
Now the president's saying he's not going to negotiate. In fact, there's a conversation that Speaker Boehner recently had with the president where the first thing the president said out of his mouth was, I will not negotiate. Look, my colleague from Minnesota has said that it was economic, what did you call it? Economic
tsunami, disaster. It's all kind of things. It's
weaponized of the debt limit, I believe, is what you
that's
said.
what
Look, if it's weaponizing of the debt limit, what this president has done by putting this economy in the shape that it is, it's economic disarmament.
Well, let's talk about,
let's not forget, we got a lot of job growth, private sector job growth.
Job opportunities. We have debt higher than we've ever had before, 17 trillion. This president is leading us down a path of economic disarmament and destruction.
Let's talk about some of the demands that you're putting on the debt limit negotiations. And this looks awfully familiar to me. A lot of these things was Romney's agenda.
Like the Keystone Pipeline, which has overwhelming support.
Romney's agenda that got voted down. It's been on your agenda
like
for years.
Elimination of EPA regulations that
approving
have
of the Keystone Pipeline.
Health and safety
delaying
regulations.
Obamacare for a year.
Which has a tremendous support around the American public.
Junk lawsuits, scrapping the
President
war on
Obama
coal,
himself has
stopping
said that he would
Obama backdoor energy tax, net neutrality.
Meaningful malpractice reform.
This is a right-wing wish list. What does this have to do with fixing our debt?
Well, if you think this is a right-wing wish list, then I guess the American people are all right-wing, because they have tremendous support around the country, tremendous support for Keystone Pipeline, tremendous support for tort reform. Look what's happening to the prices of health care today. The president has said during a State of the Union address a couple of years ago that he was interested in meaningful malpractice reform, but he's done nothing. Where did he fulfill the promise he made to the American people that he would pursue meaningful tort reform?
Let's talk about doing nothing. Between 2000 and 2006, the Republicans had the House, the Senate, the White House. You guys could have done something meaningful about health care. Didn't do it. All we did is this big pharma thing, Medicare Part D. The Democrats come in, do something meaningful about health care. We can't even get your cooperation at all. And now, instead of trying to mend the bill, you guys just want to wreck it. So I just don't understand where you guys are coming from on this thing.
Well, I'll tell you
let me just tell you, there are points where we might be able to agree. From my state, neither Democrats or Republicans are a fan of the medical device tax. Why don't we talk constructively about getting health care for the American people and the uninsured? But you guys aren't.
I just wish we would have had that conversation back when
you were there.
In an extreme, I was not there.
You guys were there.
Partisan fashion, not a single Republican vote, because they refused to negotiate with
Joseph Cow voted for the first version of it. I remember that. He was a reasonable person.
The bill that passed did not have a single
That's true,
Republican
and that's
vote.
unfortunate.
And so if we talk about the need to negotiate, where was the need to negotiate or the desire to negotiate?
It was also debated in the 2012 election pretty heavily. And the American people
and the
Supreme Court. And you failed in the Supreme Court, and you failed in the 2012 election.
Wait a second.
So this has been debated. The
I think
American
we failed.
people.
We have a Republican majority in the House of Representatives.
The American people have said pretty clearly, and the polls show
Obamacare
that they want to move on. They want to give the law a chance. They want to change it as necessary to improve it, but they want to give the law a chance.
Healthcare costs. People
actually,
being kicked
that's
off
not
of their
true.
Insurance.
That's actually not true.
You know, when
Rates
I got
came out
elected to Congress,
yes, let's talk
when
about
I got
that.
elected to Congress, I made a decision that I would not take the congressional plan.
Right.
I wanted to be in the same boat as my constituents were. And so my wife and I found a plan that met our needs, that were able to match the needs of my family in a very rural area of Colorado that has limited health care opportunities. A great hospital, but we don't have all the access that somebody living in Denver does. So we found that health care plan. And just a couple of weeks ago, my wife and I, we got a letter in the mail saying that thanks to Obamacare, your plan's being canceled. The insurance that I have, I was promised by the president that if I liked my plan, I could keep it, is being canceled. Where's the promise? Okay. Where is President Obama?
I looked up what was happening in Colorado. And actually, let's bring this up on the screen of what is available to the people of Colorado. Now, you make too much money to qualify for the tax credit. But the median income in Colorado is somewhere around $57,000. You make more than that. So a family of 4 who can get the tax credit, they can buy a silver plan, which is a very good plan, much better than what's being offered right now, for $718. With the tax credit that they will be eligible for, they will only pay $388 per month.
Well, let's
so
talk
why
about
is that a bad deal? Why is that a bad deal?
Let's talk about the fact that the president needs 38% of the people who apply for help. Let me finish.
There's also 11
insurers. The president needs 38% of the people enrolling in health care to come from that young age bracket. But in Colorado, you could be paying as much as 140% more in the young age bracket for insurance. Now, look at this.
Well, let's talk about Minnesota.
100% more.
No, let me tell you.
100% more under my plan.
I think you're choosing the highest cost plan.
I'm choosing the plan that is most similar to the one that cost me $650
let me tell you, in Minshore, in my state, we've come out with rates that are significantly below what people expected. And for a young person who may have a pre-existing condition, they're going to pay way less than they ever might imagine to. You can, sure, ask me about Minnesota.
The rates that came out, were they only for the Twin City area? It was for the
state of Minnesota.
So the study, it covered other areas? Because the information I have, it shows the areas outside of the Twin City, St. Paul area are dramatically higher.
No,
and so I think it's kind of inconclusive to talk about whether the rates are down in Minnesota when you look at St. Paul, Twin City area only.
It is clearly conclusive. The rates across Minnesota are significantly lower than
there's a comparable plan. There's a plan in Minnesota that would cost about $300 in St. Paul, but about $500 outside of St. Paul.
And here's the reality. We're talking about people, some of whom, like a young woman who worked on my staff. Her name's Abby. She had a very serious congenital illness. And in fact, she would come on this show and tell you that but for Obamacare, she would not be alive today because we got rid of lifetime limits and annual limits. This young woman, as a juvenile, couldn't get insured. She has insurance today. I tell you what, she wouldn't have insurance before, and she has it now. And she's here to tell about it.
Why was she not eligible for the Minnesota high risk plan?
Well, you know, she actually was in the Minnesota high risk pill, but you know, getting it, you know, that was like her only option, and there was really nothing else she could get. She couldn't go in the private sector and just get a plan.
And you normally pay higher rates on.
And not just higher.
And I mean, that brings up the point that
prohibitively higher for her situation, and many people who are really.
But I think it's important to point out in Minnesota, if I'm correct, those people who are participating in the high-risk pool and other insurance programs through Minnesota Care, I believe you have, or
MNsure is what's
MNsure,
program.
That those people are still on those plans, and so they haven't been exposed yet to Obamacare. So when they go into the Obamacare plan, those rates are going to go up dramatically.
I don't believe that's true.
That's not how it works.
We don't
okay, guys,
that's not true.
Hold on. We're going to get clarity in a minute, but when we come back, Stephanie and I will share with you our favorite versions of Bill Clinton negotiating. And by the way, they're a little bit different versions.
Crossfire, brought to you by Cisco. Tomorrow starts here.
Kind of a Zen garden putting green.
This store knows how to handle a Saturday crowd. The parking lot helps by letting us know who's coming. Good to see you again. The carts keep everyone on the right track. The power tools introduce themselves.
Like that.
All the bits and bulbs keep themselves stocked. And the doors even handle the checkout, so we can work on that thing that's stuck in the thing.
Today, Cisco is connecting the Internet of Everything, so everyone goes home happy.
Dad, Katy Perry is coming to town. Can we get tickets, please?
Tickets? Sure, how many?
Well, there's Hannah and Maddie and Jen and Sarah and Sarah.
Whoa, hold on. Here it comes. We can't forget about your older sister.
Thank you.
Seriously? What? I get 2 times the thank you points on each ticket. Can I come? Yeah.
The Citi Thank You Preferred Card. Now earn 2 times the points on entertainment and dining out with no annual fee. To apply, go to Citi.com/thankyoucards.
The cholesterol-lowering medication Lipitor may increase the risk of diabetes in women. The FDA recently added this increased risk of diabetes to the warning on Lipitor. Our law firm is helping women taking Lipitor who have been diagnosed with diabetes. Please call 1-800-BAD-DRUG to discuss your rights with an attorney. As reported by Reuters, studies show Lipitor may cause an increased risk of diabetes in women. Call now for a free consultation. 1-800-BAD-DRUG. Non-attorney spokesperson.
My customers can shop around, see who does good work, and compare costs. It doesn't usually work that way with healthcare. But with United Healthcare, I get information on quality-rated doctors, treatment options, and estimates for how much I'll pay. That helps me and my guys make better decisions. I don't like guesses with my business, and definitely not with our health. Innovations that work for you. That's health in numbers. United Healthcare.
CNN's original series, Anthony Bourdain Parts Unknown, goes west to New Mexico.
At no point was I probed, nor did anyone attempt to probe me, and I'm a little hurt.
Anthony Bourdain Parts Unknown, New Mexico. Sunday night, 9 Eastern and Pacific on CNN.
Due to the recent financial crisis, trillions of dollars in retirement investments have been wiped out, forcing seniors to delay retirement and question their future. For many, a reverse mortgage is the answer. It's simple. With a reverse mortgage, you don't make monthly payments, you receive money every month. The title and deed always remain in your name, and you can stay as long as you live there. Best of all, the money you receive is tax-free. This government-backed program is regulated by HUD and insured by the FHA. There are no income, asset, or credit requirements, no monthly mortgage payments, and you retain ownership of your home.
Getting this reverse mortgage has enabled us to continue enjoying our lives.
It makes life much easier. That was the best thing I've ever done.
For more information about obtaining your reverse mortgage and to receive a free gift,
call 1-800-452-4937. 1-800-452-4937.
this is CNN.
Welcome back to Crossfire. Last night, CNN's Piers Morgan surprised me by getting Bill Clinton to say this.
We worked it out when he was trying to run me out of town. We were still working together. I mean, I knew it was a game to him. He thought, you know, he would, as he looked, he once said to Erskine Bowles, the difference between us is that we'll do whatever we can and you won't do that. You think there are things you shouldn't do. And once I realized what the deal was, I let him do whatever he could, and then we did business on the side.
Newt, I have my own bite from President Clinton to show you that things have changed since you were Speaker.
Unfortunately, the faction that now dominates the Republican Party doesn't see it that way. They think government is always the enemy, they're always right, and compromise is weakness.
You know, I'll just say this. If Bill Clinton were president today, he would be talking and talking and talking. He was capable of endless meetings, and it's part of the American system, like we're doing right here, to get people in a room, get off the stage, away from the cameras, and lay it out. And I think that in that sense,
you have to admit that the way our politics runs now, particularly the House of Representatives, is different than what you dealt with. There is really nobody to negotiate with. It's controlled by 45 members on the right that Boehner has not figured out how to thread the needle and get anything done. It's impossible.
I don't actually agree with that.
I know you do.
I think that in the end, you negotiate with the party leader, and John Boehner is the party leader.
And you get nowhere. Congressman Keith Ellison and Cory Gardner are in the crossfire. So, Congressman Gardner, I wanted to go back to you. Who is actually in charge? You know, if the president did want to negotiate with someone, should he bring all 238 members down to the White House and let the real leader stand out?
Well, the elected leadership of the House of Representatives, John Boehner, Eric Cantor,
he doesn't have the authority to negotiate.
And the American people who are wanting us to do things like get rid of this horrible economic catastrophe, healthcare catastrophe of Obamacare.
So the list that you all put out today, your demands, extortions,
those things that are popular amongst the American people.
You're already walking it back. You know, I saw something from Representative Cole to say you're already retweaking it because it's not right-wing enough for many members of your caucus.
Which is far different than the way the Democrat majority ran when they rammed through the health care bill.
It's already moving to the right. The list that you put out today is not even what you can negotiate on because you have to move it further to the right.
Look, if we're talking about including things like the Keystone Pipeline, overwhelming popularity amongst the American people. If we're talking about including things...
So is this a la carte?
This is an opportunity for the American people to get our economy back on its feet and to restore the damage that the past 4 or 5 years have done to our American economy. Look, I want to go back to the health care promise that the president made, that he sold the American public on with health care. He said if you had a health insurance plan that you liked, you'd get to keep it. He said that this will help reduce the cost of health care. Richard Foster, the chief actuary of Medicare, independent, not a Republican, not a Democrat, testified before Congress in 2011. Those two promises will not come true. As I've seen my family, like I mentioned,
Foster has also
we have
said
seen
that the price
those
will go down.
things. We have seen the price increase, and so
no, you haven't seen the price increase.
I've seen the price increase. It's right here in my policy.
There are many plans that you can pick in Colorado, which are better than what you're getting now.
I'm paying $1,480, and the president told me if I liked my plan,
the most expensive plan
this is
on
the
that
plan
list.
that was comparable to. It's the most comparable.
Most of the plans on that list are better than what you have now.
You know what, Steph?
To pay $600 a month, not $1,480.
If you have a big problem, you need a big solution. And so we had a serious problem with in American health care. We came with a bill to try to address it. Now, there's never been a perfect piece of legislation. You're going to have to go back and work on it. You're going to have to look at parts of it that aren't working so well, and you're going to have to change those things and keep the ones that are working. But that's not what the Republicans are doing.
And that's not what Nancy Pelosi did when she said you have to pass it before you know what's in it.
You're talking about the past. I'm talking about now. What I'm saying is right now, we could get together and work on solving some problems. But that's not what we're doing.
The president has said he will not negotiate. How do you negotiate with the president who says he negotiates with Vladimir Putin? He's not negotiating with us.
We can negotiate on all type of things. We can negotiate on the budget. But on the debt ceiling is going to do the very things you guys say you don't want to do, which is create all kinds of uncertainty. You break that debt ceiling, that's going to jack up interest rates. No, Cory, hear me out now. That's going to increase interest rates. That's going to increase the cost of everything. That's going to increase unemployment. You guys talk a lot about uncertainty. You're creating uncertainty.
In 2006, the president tried to use the debt limit to enforce his will on Iraq. That's what he tried to do. Now he's saying you can't do that. Don't even think about it. We put meaningful budgetary caps. You know what's going to destroy this economy?
You guys have
a $17 trillion debt.
Okay, well, how about Cory, here's a question for you.
That are draining this economy.
Cory, how about
that's what's going to break this economy?
The deficit has gone from, I think, 2009 to about 1.4 trillion down to about 642 billion.
Which means you're still adding to the debt.
No, so the deficit is going down.
The debt is growing.
We are making progress.
Every year the debt is growing.
Even John Boehner doesn't claim we are in a short-term or even mid-term problem. We have some long-term issues we have to deal with. We should deal with them. But the fact is, you guys won't even give the president credit for reducing the deficit.
Let me just ask you an a la carte question for a second.
Let's do it.
All right. If everything that Stephanie objects to is stripped out and the debt ceiling comes out and all it has is the repeal of the tax on medical technology, which has been an anti-innovation and an anti-jobs tax, and particularly hits Minnesota.
It hits Minnesota.
Could you vote for a debt ceiling that only has one thing on it over and above the debt ceiling, which is the repeal of that tax?
You know what, Newt? I tell you this. I can only speak for myself. I'd be open to the conversation. I don't see why we have to tie the two together because you got me on that one already. but my point is that the debt ceiling should not. I mean, people can vote for it. They can vote against it. Republicans and Democrats have voted for and against the debt ceiling, but it's always been an expression of a point or a concern. It's never threatened the very foundations of the economy as it is now. So, look, I'm open to the dialogue. I believe in negotiation. We can negotiate over the shutdown. We haven't really talked about the shutdown. We've been talking about a lot of other stuff. But the shutdown, we can negotiate over that kind of stuff. Again, I know that to get a deal, I'm going to have to vote for some stuff I sure don't like, Cory. And so are you if you want to get a deal. But we got this situation where it's my way or the highway. You got this long list here, man.
Look, remember when the Budget Control Act of 2011 went through? It was passed, the president's idea to put the sequester in place.
Oh,
and then
come on. No, Cory, no.
And so we have a lot of, we can talk about the opportunities to work together, but then the second you do something on this, the president disavows any kind of knowledge that he is actually the one who promoted it and signed the law to make it happen.
If you guys don't like sequester, let's get rid of it.
Hey, we're actually at a place now where we've been able to cut spending.
Health care, okay? So we could just take that one off the table. But the sequester.
But I thought you were willing to negotiate.
Look, are
you willing to negotiate on the health care bill?
On the health care bill, there are pieces of it.
Like what piece?
Well, I already mentioned
the medical device tax.
I mentioned that. So, I mean, so...
What about allowing individuals to get an exemption just like businesses did, a waiver?
Look, Newt and I agree that the individual mandate is something that we need to have a big enough pool And look, people are...
But we know the exchanges aren't ready. We know this thing's ready.
My pool's ready.
Should it be late?
But, you know,
my pool... No, Minshore is ready, man. You know, we're good to go. And I think there are exchanges all over this country that are good to go. You can't say nobody's ready.
Now, you have to fax your paperwork if you're a small business because the websites aren't ready.
You know what? Here's the thing about small business. 360,000 of them have taken advantage of the small business health care.
And hundreds of thousands of jobs will be lost as a result of reduced hours on small businesses.
I doubt it. I don't think they will.
So, look, we can go back and forth on a lot of the facts.
I think employers like healthy workers, which means they need health care.
You know, I think that most Americans want this law to proceed and make changes as necessary, but they want to give the law a chance. But I have a question, a very specific question to you. You've put out this list of demands. You seem pretty serious about delaying the health care law for individuals for a year, which means 11 million Americans won't get health care. Is that your bright line? Are you going to let the government default if you don't get that?
Well, the only people who've been talking about default are people like Harry Reid, people like President Obama, who are refusing
Your party
to negotiate.
Has been talking about default.
We are simply saying that if we have a debt ceiling, then let's take that opportunity to do something like we have done in the past.
If you don't get these things, you will not let the government default.
Nobody's talking about defaulting. Nobody's talking about shutting the government down.
But, Cory, what if we don't accede to your demands? Then
what happens?
If you're talking about acceding to the demands, that's something the American people are hoping for.
You've listed the demands.
Look, I look forward to working together to pass the Keystone Pipeline, to put the REINS Act in place, which would bring in regulatory.
Let's get real, man.
We have an opportunity to grow the economy.
What happens if we don't do what you say here?
So you're not willing to negotiate?
Can I bring up a radical idea for a second?
Yeah, I'd love to hear one.
That just breaks out of the whole current system. Harry Reid could announce tomorrow morning that the Senate will pass the Keystone Pipeline, and the Senate will pass the repeal of the tax on devices. And when it came out of the Senate, you know the House would pass it. The president could announce he would sign it. Now, that would be a step towards a cleaner debt ceiling. And you could say, gee, we both won. You didn't let the Republicans put anything on it. The Republicans got 2 of their major goals. There are lots of ways to do this if people talk to each other. There's no way to do it if everybody engages in press conferences and partisan speeches.
I think talking is the right thing to do. I don't know if your prescription is the right answer, but your suggestion that talking is the right thing, and I agree with that.
I'm told, by the way, that I now have to say thank you to both of you.
Thank
you, Representative Ellison.
I know.
We're going to have you back. No, guarantee we're going to have you come back.
Yes,
Next,
definitely.
we ceasefire. And White House Press Secretary Jay Carney's obsession with Crossfire continues.